Welcome to episode 19. Today's guest is Amanda Seigel. In this episode, Amanda talks about her experiences living in New Orleans, neuro-expansiveness in the Caribbean, the vibrancy of Jamaica, shedding like a snake, her spiritual legacy, and more. There were a couple of glitches during this episode, so I'm sorry about that. Amanda has shared so many things with me over the last couple of years that have helped me understand myself more as a water spirit. For example, in episode 14, I spoke with astrologer Camille Michelle Gray about her research on Neptune's relationship with Black people and events in Black history, particularly in the United States, and only learned about Camille's work from Amanda. So thank you again, Amanda, for sharing what would eventually lead to the episode with Camille. Also, in 2023, Amanda participated in an online gathering I organized called a Merfolk Happening, which was a celebration for the Little Mermaid film with Halle Bailey. And the people who participated shared their thoughts, writing, and art on mermaids. Amanda shared mirrors, snakes, sirens, plus tsunamis, a Mamiwata scholarly personal narrative, which she wrote while in college years ago. And it was truly, truly a gift for her to share that. You can read this narrative linked in the show notes. Here is Amanda's bio. Amanda is a multi-hyphenate artist born and raised in San Francisco, California. As an artist and spiritual practitioner, most of her work revolves around her connection to Jamaica and her Caribbean heritage at large. When she's not working with her hands through prayer, art, or dance, she's either eating sweets or singing sweet somethings to her cat. Some reflections from this episode. First, I'll say I was on Threads recently and somebody was like, if I hear someone say portal one more time, and I was like, portal. I was like, portal, 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 portal. I never know what people want to talk about during their interview and what will come up. And interestingly, many guests have talked about portals. In Amanda's episode, she talks about her experiences with portals in New Orleans, which is really interesting. If you're tired of hearing about portals, I don't know what to tell you. Portals are just a part of life. Anyway, there's a lot I could reflect on from this episode, and there's just not enough time allocated for the intro to share my thoughts in the way I want to because, I could get into it with this episode. There's so much to chew on. I will say, though, at some point during our conversation, Amanda shares a still-forming theory about Jamaica and the Caribbean that I think will spark a lot of hopefully generative conversation. After the interview, I sent Amanda an audio message asking some clarifying questions on her theory, and she responded with more insights. So I'm either going to try to incorporate these clips in the episode or figure out how to upload the audio on her Substack page. So be on the lookout for that. If I include that, because I'm still not sure if I'm going to include that yet. If you listen to what Amanda shares in the episode, her theory, and you don't quite understand what she's saying or you have questions about it, just remember that she's still in the process of finding her words, and it might not make complete sense until she fleshes it out more. But I bet there are people out there, especially if you are Jamaican and Caribbean, who will have a better understanding of what Amanda is talking about, even when she's still, forming what she wants to say. Also, if you do get what Amanda's saying and you don't agree, that's totally fine. People are allowed to not agree. Last but not least, I also told her after the interview, I want this podcast to be a place where myself and guests can just share and there not be pressure to be polished, but just have a real life exchange. Sure, I craft the intros a certain way because that's me wanting to be clear in what I want to share. Because I know that my mind goes in different directions. Shout out to Delta Venus at Delta Venus, who posted this Instagram post about I don't know, it was like this person was really uplifting the signs in a particular way, and I don't know her pronouns, but I don't know Delta Venus's pronouns, but just that um I read about myself as a Gemini moon and that actually there's intelligence in my mind, you know, wanting to like go out, wanting to pick up on an idea or pick up on something and then go in different directions. And I see myself doing that. It can be very helpful in certain instances, and other times um, something that feels like it needs to be managed. Um, but it's just nice to hear how different parts of you are um, like there's an intelligence to um, I don't know, being a Gemini moon. There's um there's a reason there's a reason why Leo risings have a reach, or I don't know. I'm sure there's lots of examples. And Aries moons can be a really magnificent mirror. What you see in the Aries moon mirror. Those are just some examples that you know, with anything with astrology, there are the parts that can be improved and worked on, and then there's other parts of you where you're being uplifted and shown how this part of you is a gift, and or it's really cool, or it's helpful in some way. Oh my gosh. So every time I'm like, here I go meandering, maybe I need to um, reframe what's going on here and be like, oh, I see my mind going out again. I know it's probably leading me in directions that could be more illuminating, but let me bring it back in. Let me bring it back in. But yeah, just wanting this to be a space where people can just share and it not be like pressure to be like all knowing and all perfect and all having it all figured out, and every single thing each guest says is like articulated in the most perfect way. It's like just people guests coming on the podcast and sharing, and however it comes out, that's how it comes out, and people can follow up through writing, through whatever medium. Finally, just to let folks know, it is a big step for Amanda, from based on our conversations, to come into the spotlight, share from her heart like so many guests have done before, and be seen and heard. So please show her some love and encouragement via the comments, direct message on her Instagram account, by sharing this episode. Just really hoping people show her love for growing her capacity to be heard and seen and be in the spotlight. Thanks to all you listeners out there for meeting us at the Throughline. I hope you enjoy episode 19 with Amanda Seigel. All right, listeners, if you can / want to, please take your time listening to this episode. Make a cup of tea at home, find a cozy cafe, or listen on the go. Either way, I hope you find at least one thing in this episode that is interesting, sparks your curiosity, is helpful, or inspiring in some way. Until next time. I'm so
Thank
excited to have you
you.
here.
I'm so excited to
Um,
be here.
yes, I'm so excited to interview you. And before we begin, I'd love to know, how are you doing?
Um, I'm doing good. Things are moving sort of strangely, but not in any way that I'm not ready for. I know that sounds kind of vague, but that's where like my heart and my energy is at this moment.
Hmm. I hear you. I hear you. I feel like I'm in a similar space. It sounds maybe like, moving through uncertainty, but being ready.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Even in relation to this, yeah, especially in relation to this, I was nervous, but here I am. So it's okay.
Yes, it's okay. And I really look forward to what we're gonna talk about, dive in. So first, if I'm correct, you grew up on the West Coast in San Francisco, California. And I'm
Yes.
so curious, what was it like growing up there?
Um, it's so simple, but it also definitely has its complexities. Um, a lot of like joy and glitter, honestly. At least what I remember from my earlier years. And having the blessing of being near two beaches, like two entries into the ocean, was always really, really nice. Um, and a lot of privilege and access to that, a lot of privilege and access to, um, such a gorgeous city. There's also, um, like a lot of neoliberal niceties, very subtle ways in which people segregate themselves and ally themselves with certain interests and sort of brush things under the rug. um, that gets sort of ignored because San Francisco is seen as like such an amazing place. And so growing up in a bubble where things were dismissed in that way, it definitely had an impact on me growing up, and a lot of things that I had to shed off um, when I realized more things about myself. So, yeah.
Hmm. That sounds beautiful that you grew up near the ocean. Yeah, I'm always just curious to hear people's thoughts on where they grew up. I feel like
Hmm.
New York City is the same, where, there people are in certain neighborhoods, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
these people are over here and these people over here, and yeah, I my first time to California was last year to San Diego, so I feel like I've barely touched the surface of California.
Mm-hmm.
There's like LA. I didn't even know that the cities are so far apart. Um,
Yeah,
because
driving from SF to LA is 5 hours if you're driving fast.
yeah, I didn't realize that. And I'm sorry if if I don't know, just sound like I don't know anything, but San Francisco, that's where the Golden Gate Bridge is.
Hell yeah, baby. Yes.
Yeah. See, that's when I think of California, I have that image in my mind. I think it's such a maybe a familiar image for people.
Hmm.
Um, but That's amazing that you got to grow up near the Pacific Ocean. Uh,
So cold. It was so
oh, it's
cold.
cold.
It stays cold. Yeah.
I hear that about California waters, that the water's actually really cold.
Yeah. LA and SoCal, the waters are warmer, but the beaches down there are kind of but yeah, in SF though, in the bay, like the waters are warming up to where um certain creatures that can only stay like seasonally or whatever are actually there like year round now. Like harbor
Oh,
porpoises and honestly like bottlenose dolphins. Yeah.
wow. So like, yeah, living there, you get to see all the changes going on with climate change and the
Mm-hmm.
ocean warming.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it would be interesting to do some sort of what's going on the East Coast, what's going on the West Coast as far as like climate change and things like that. Well, I know you also lived in New Orleans at some point,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what called you to New Orleans?
Um, New Orleans called me all my life. If I'm being real with you, I always knew that I was gonna go live there. I didn't expect it to unfold exactly how it did, but I always wanted to go for the music, the food, the culture. I feel like in very obvious, loud ways, it is really closely connected to the Caribbean. And so I was drawn to it for that reason. Um, yeah, also like the crocodiles specifically called me to the swamp, and the energy of storms as well. Like I moved there in the middle of hurricane season, and some people were like that's crazy and some people were like that's crazy, but I respect that you did that because you wanted to see what you were getting yourself into. um and yeah, like the rainstorms really drew me out. um and yeah, just a whole lot of vibes out there that I always knew I would be um drawn towards. Yeah.
I was on Instagram recently and I was scrolling and there's like this new documentary on Netflix. I can't remember the name, but it's about, New Orleans and in the trailer this man talks about how New Orleans is a part of this region that's the most like Afro-Caribbean
Mm.
part of the country. So that I thought of that when you said that. Um, Storms. Mm. See, I have a question about Oya, but it's gonna come later. Uh, it's gonna come later, but I love that about the storms and the rain. Because in another episode, with someone named Veronica Agard, she talks about finding your center in the storm, in the
Mhm.
eye of the storm. Um, I don't know. I'm curious to hear more about your thoughts on storms and the wind. We'll come back to oil, but if it,
Mm.
it comes in your answer, feel free.
I mean, it's honestly kind of been on my mind a lot recently. Um, Growing up, I used to talk to the wind a lot, and I didn't realize that it was something that other people didn't do. Um, and I had like, some would call them invisible friends, but I felt people like above me watching me, and I would talk to them and I would talk to the wind. Um, and the wind would tell me where to go and where to move if I was walking or alone. Um, and yeah, that's not really a thing that other people do that
I love
often. At
that.
least that I, you know that my lived experience is vastly different from a lot of people. But also same in a lot of ways to people who have the same experiences. But there's those who it absolutely would not resonate for, who would assign certain labels or whatever to that as a way of being. But yeah, it was sort of just something that I did that I dropped, and now I'm calling back into my circle of daily experience.
Wow. Anytime the wind comes and I feel the wind, I think and feel a lot of things, but anytime I feel the wind, and it's really blowing, I'm like, oh, there's gonna be some changes. So
Mm-hmm.
like when you do feel the wind, do you ever do you think, oh, there's gonna be some changes or
Um, I don't know if I've ever thought of it like that. Maybe sort of subtly, subconsciously, yes. But I just sort of, I don't know. I guess I see it as um just the root of my power and like where I come from. And um when I notice the wind, it's sort of when I feel, or at least recently, it's when I feel strong, when I'm walking with purpose. Um, Maybe in relation to changes, but it also is in relation to like warnings for me. And so, in terms of like safety and power, that's sort of where the access of it like lies for me.
Mhm.
Um, and the messages that I get, like sometimes it's whispers, most of the time it's just a feeling and like an innate knowing in my spirit, um, of not really asking, but then getting an answer and just like moving through time and space with that on me now.
Wow, yeah, I love how the wind is, shows up in your life or how you experience the wind because I haven't heard this, like
Mm,
the podcast is mostly, it's geared toward water, but yeah, I do think the wind and the water have a relationship, but I haven't really heard people's experiences with the wind in this way. And yeah, it sounds like maybe the wind played a part in, um, bringing you or taking you to New Orleans. Are
oh,
there?
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Just
Yeah, and also here, in this spot that I got into, it was pouring rain when I first got here, and all the cupboards were empty. The only thing that I found was a completely burnt down candle with Oya on it,
wow.
and
And
a
are you in
picture of
San?
her by the front door.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, are you in San Francisco right now?
No, no. I'm like in the Bay still.
Oh,
So I'm like rooted nearby, but yeah.
and that's where you saw this candle?
Mhm.
Wait, can you say that again?
Yeah, when I moved here, it was pouring rain, like absolutely just sheets. And I got here in this room, all the cupboards were empty, everything was empty. There was, well, okay, there was a singular black cowbell, and then there was a completely burnt down glass candle for Oya that had a lot of resistance at the top because there was like a lot of black soot. Um, but yeah, it was burnt down, completely empty. And then there was also a picture of her by the front door. And then there was also, yeah, just a lot of experiences, um, with the Orisha and with her specifically in the first week that I got here, um, that just let me know that I'm on the right path and things are going to be okay, even though it seems endlessly chaotic. There is an end to the chaos.
That's powerful.
I hope and pray.
That's powerful. It makes me think of, when you do get those signs or messages to not only pay attention to, but to like to believe them or trust
Mm-hmm.
them.
Yeah.
I I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I've kind of lost a bit of my I feel like I've lost something in that sort of
Mm.
like paying attention to signs and messages. Is that something that is strong for you, or do you feel like you've got to
Yes.
remind yourself?
um Both. I am been trying to calm this inner war in me that, I know that the roots are in other things, but it definitely expresses itself in a lot of doubt, and a lack of faith, and feeling afraid, feeling the fear of things, wanting answers to be laid out clearly for me. But in um that's sort of, I don't want to say annoying, but like that African elder way of like purposefully not giving you a direct answer even though they have the answer, and withholding it and then giving you like a cryptic ass like little riddle to something that makes you, it forces you to do the work on your own. I used to think that that was fucking annoying. I'm not gonna lie, I still think that it is, but I get why it's useful. However, it feels like, you know, trickling down as well as pouring up. Like that's the way that things go, and so like wanting answers from certain spirits about things, um, it just feels like a little flick on the wrist and like a not no, but a not right now.
Mhm.
Um, and you learn about things when you're supposed to, if you're supposed to at all. Um, and so it's just like really settling into a lot of patience and just knowing that like manifesting certain things isn't that hard. It's honestly like pretty fucking easy if you just settle into like knowing that, um it's chill and you already have it, so like why are you stressing? And
Mhm.
that has been a point of pressure for me, um especially in today's world. There's a lot of comparison, a lot of internal pressure that comes from external sources that, um, really doesn't need to be there at all and doesn't apply and can actively delay things and create a lot of internal stress where there doesn't need to be. And so I've just been really, um, actively like pruning my thoughts. So, um, yeah, it's just been a thing, honestly, this past week where when I have doubts, I'm just like, but you're saying that you doubt God by having that doubt, like you have that desire. And so just relax into it and know that it's done. Because every time that you doubt it, like you're doubting God's ability to like handle what you asked for. Um, yeah.
Mm. Oh, I've resonated with so much in there. I'm like, I'm processing. I'm processing because yeah, you about faith and taking care of the thoughts that come through. I like how you say pruning because when you said that I thought of like a garden. I don't know, I just thought of a
Mm-hmm.
garden and like lush green and pruning up. This thought is taking over and I don't want this thought here. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Especially being like, neurodivergent. And I hate that word, but
mm,
there's, having a brain that is expansive and, um incredibly talented and super like a garden, like lush and able to fire things and inhale information in incredibly dense ways. I think that that is, um definitely been a point of contention for me, especially in this world, all the labels and things, and seeing things as disabling in this world. Inherently they are, like there's no getting around that for sure. But I do think that in relation to calling in and like conjuring and crafting our own worlds, there is a lot of power in recognizing, okay, I'm not neurotypical. I'm not an NPC in this fucking game. My brain actually has a monologue and a narrative. I can see images incredibly clearly. My dreams are like so close. I can call them in by like all eight of my senses. So, like, that is such a power that a lot of people don't have access to. Like some people don't even see images, and that's just like baseline daily experience for me all the time. So like instead of feeling tortured in a carousel of horrors by my thoughts, like what does it mean to be a friend to my own mind, body, and spirit? Mind being first, because I mean they all feed each other, but yeah, that's sort of like the journey that I've been actively working on. um yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much because I love that I love how you know yourself in that way and how you describe yourself just like
I'm
you
trying.
did. I love that. And I can understand sometimes there's a lot of kind of conversation sometimes I see that kind of demonizes the mind, or like, you somehow have to disassociate from your mind, but it's a part of your body. So it is important to consider this part of ourselves, that it might have it the mind might have gotten been kind of too uplifted, but that doesn't mean now that we just push it all the way down. And it's just it's seeing that our minds are still a part of our experience. And yeah, I think it's important to, like, yeah, recognize all our brains aren't quote working in the same way. That's something I'm really interested in, is like how we even talk about the mind,
Hmm.
our mind.
I could go on and on. Like
Please, I'd
literally.
love to hear some thoughts.
um okay, well there is, in relation to, okay, wait, give me 1 second. Give me
Yes,
one
please take
second.
take your time. We
mm,
uplift, taking our time.
yeah, it's been quite a journey coming back to myself. um I remember when I was on the mat, like getting divination from a priest, you know. Um, he threw the shells and told me, and it didn't really hit at the time. I was like, what the fuck is he saying? But that's sort of a thing, where you're just like, what for weeks, and then it clicks, and you're like, oh, duh. But basically he was like, "Oh, you have a theory of the Caribbean and it's correct." And I was like, "What?" And then I realized, "Oh, he's talking about this thing that I have had in mind for the past 8 fucking years of um something that I have kept very close to my chest and my heart, um in relation to um just like quote unquote neuro-expansiveness, but especially in relation to the Caribbean. And so, like, being also in New Orleans, I felt this energy so clearly. And that's not to downplay the Caribbean at all. I think it definitely is one of the few, well, not few, spots in the US that have that same energy. Um, Especially in relation to like portals and things like that. But basically, like, mm, God help me to articulate this. um, there is this constant image in my mind of Christopher Columbus's foot, like stepping on the sandy shores of whichever island was first. I don't really know. I think Jamaica was like third or something down the line. Um, but the echoes of that colonial violence that set so many horrible things in place have created a like a masterpiece of portals and like things that can break through that can't be replicated anywhere else in the world. And so like in Haiti, Haiti more I should say, um they and so please I have respect for you. Don't come for me. I'm trying to articulate this well, and I wanted to read up on it earlier. But it's just something that stayed with me ever since I saw it. There's this film called The Eye of the Spiral or In the Eye of the Spiral, talking about Haitian spiralism, which is this like art form that emerged some time ago. But basically, their root of philosophy was that the whole world has a spiral energy and that everything in the world spirals around and lands completely straight on Haiti. All of this energy, like a conflux. And so, like, in my mind, I've just been calling this the Caribbean conflux because I don't really have, I don't know, that's just the word that comes to mind. But thinking about time and space as being a fabric on a loom or like a spider's web, like Anansi currently weaving and holding every story known to mankind. Um, and thinking about those threads, um, which like there's so many cultures of people who have talked about seeing threads of light emerging from people's heads. So like we kind of are like Sims in that way. Like the San people in South Africa, their shamans have literally been recorded as talking about seeing golden threads of light that attach to our heads. And like, um, you know, within Ifa, they say that, your Ori is where your soul lies. And it's kind of crazy to think about like when a baby is fresh, like freshly comes out, there that spot is still squishy.
Oh my gosh,
Just
that's
it's kind of gross, but like it's really interesting to think about. And so like in relation to um basically like how those echoes of trauma can create waves throughout time and space that like literally rip holes in that fabric, they rip holes in the web. You get a place like the Caribbean where there's such an energy that's like so colorful and loud. And I remember when people were trying to um, use certain like Western labels for my lived experience, right? And I was like, but I'm not insert whatever label here. I'm
mm-hmm,
Jamaican. What are you
mm-hmm,
talking about? I'm just
mm-hmm,
Jamaican. What do you
mm-hmm,
mean? I'm Jamaican. Yeah, I talk fast. I'm Jamaican. Yeah, like the food has energy, it has body, it has soul. Like the music, even the way that Jamaicans speak, very much has melody to it. Things get repeated, things rhyme, things are channeled. People like preach and pull things down from the sky to the root through their voice all the time. And like there is a a vibration that just naturally is in the air all the time. And then you also, through those portals, get things like all of the water spirits that are there, all of the little like creepy, crawly, scary creatures that are just known to like hang out, you know. Like the spiritual energy is not to be played with, and it is in like everybody's blood who comes from that area. You know, like there's no such thing as a neurotypical Caribbean. And that was like a sort of hidden thesis that I was crafting for years silently. And then he told me on the mat, and I was like, oh, maybe I should share this with people. But then I got scared and I shut up. So I haven't
No.
I haven't shared it because I didn't know how to articulate it. I feel like whenever I articulate it, either people are gonna call me crazy, or you know, it's just one of those things that I'm like, maybe there's nothing to talk about. And that's just my brain trying to shut it down before I put it out. But yeah, it definitely is a thing because I wouldn't have been told that if it weren't. And I'm like, damn, I'm actually really smart.
Yes, I'm like, this episode is about to be 3 hours. This is about to be a 3 hour episode. But
Yeah, and it all started because I was looking into like uh neurodivergence in Caribbean immigrants, and like the way that that floods the population, why, how, what's going on, and like through a spiritual lens. And I was like digging, seeing about all this different stuff. And none of the scholarly papers that I read spoke on anything that I just said. And so I was like, do I need to write this myself? Like, God damn.
please. So you're saying that, if I understand right, because what you said,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot in there. It was just like everything that you said was, it was shimmering itself with like, wow,
Mm.
I would love to read this through text because I feel like I can absorb information through text.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's a good way for me to learn. But you're saying like when for Columbus, when that vision foot landing on that soil, stepping on that soil, and that being a catalyst of some sort, and
Mm-hmm.
it catalyst like ricochet into space and time, and what happened when that happened. All it was just like, I just see ripples
Mm.
of things being changed, destroyed, created, morphed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's, I definitely felt that hella fucking strongly when I was in New Orleans. I felt it very heavily. Um, there was, I don't even know if I should say this. It's a place where portals can come alive and things can pop out, not always good things. Like in the Caribbean, you don't want to really be walking through the woods alone at night. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know man or what else you would come across. And New Orleans very much so has that same energy. There were literal portals that I found. Like people talk about portals and generational curse breaking in very metaphorical ways. When I was in New Orleans, literally a portal appeared in my fucking bedroom. That's not a metaphor. Literally, I can show you the image. I can show you.
I believe
It
it.
happened over the span
Mm.
of several days when a lot of very intense things happened, and I think that um it is just something. In thinking of that experience for me, the portal that showed up did so on, well, like it was in this period of like a few days when um a man was really violent towards me and like threatened my life, and I almost died. Um, and honestly, I think it was a warning A, and also B, I think it pulled me through and brought me to um, sort of a timeline where I was not killed, which sounds crazy to say, but um, I think that in relation to everything that I just shared, and in relation to like sort of this Caribbean superpower of tapping into that energy that we all have, and mainly again talking to just like the black and indigenous folks, like white Caribbeans, it's not really for you, but um it's something that we can use as an alternative network of creating new realities, quite literally, um, ones that don't involve such heartbreak and violence. And so, yeah, I don't really know what to call that, because I'm in the act of utilizing all of these tools myself. Um, but yeah.
Wow. Whew, because I remember when you shared that experience of like almost getting killed, and it's so interesting to think about this portal in which like that you got on another timeline, which is allowing us to talk right now, you know?
Hmm.
And I everything you said about New Orleans, I believe. I can't remember what year I went there, but I feel like I wasn't there long enough to experience what you're sharing.
Hmm.
I don't know how many days I was there, but almost sounds like a movie. You know, like a movie where it's like this magical place where you you know, like on Instagram one time, I keep seeing something about like you got to be careful what you do in New Orleans. And they showed this video of this man like bumping elbows and like you shouldn't do that because he's trying to swap destinies with you. And I'm like, well, of course I would hear something like that going on in New Orleans.
Well, I mean, like, everyone talks about destiny swapping and all that nonstop. If you have your protections and you lay claim to your destiny like daily, nobody can take that from you, just as long as you put in the action to actually lay claim. People can lay claim to all the blessings that have been written for you if you're not touching them. If you're showing God every day that, like, I don't really care about this,
Mhm.
yeah, whatever. But I feel like that's funny. It's just you know, there's a lot of things that can't even really be articulated, but you can feel it when you're there. It's definitely electric and, like, yeah, dangerous. Yeah, there's a lot of bloodsuckers and people out who will take from you, and yeah, the hustle is alive and well. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Mhm. You know what? And I want to just like uplift you for sharing this because you're right
Thank
that
you.
not everything can be shared through words, that
Hmm.
there's just different ways of knowing. And I know there's going to be people listening to this who understand what you're saying in other ways that aren't through words, because there's different ways to hear and listen and sense. Um and thank you for sharing. I mean, all everything you shared literally, like we could just talk about this whole time. We here and talk about that portal, or you know, go being on a different timeline. Uh,
Mm. Quantum immortality is what it's
ooh,
called. And I did a TikTok dive because I didn't really articulate it fully. I was sort of scared to ask myself, like, damn, did I really bleed to death on the floor of a porch at a shitty job where I was being underpaid, overexploited in fucking New Orleans? $8 an hour, the fucking heat, killed by a violent ass man who hated
Mm.
women. And, I was afraid to ask myself that. But in seeing other people who have similar experiences where, like, maybe it's not a physical portal that they can see, but they definitely saw things shift in a moment where they should have died and then they didn't. They got picked up and lifted and put somewhere else. And it's like, honestly, if there's an endless amount of like realities, that's the gift that keeps on giving. Whenever you make a choice, it opens up a new one, and we're all doing that all day every day. Like, it shouldn't be that hard at all for them to
Mhm.
just, boop, put you somewhere somewhere else that's
Wow.
slightly different but a little bit the same.
See, and that reminds me about how, like, first, like, I don't know, that there's a lot more going on, because sometimes I wonder, why am I here and not
Mm-hmm.
there? You know, like, why? And maybe there's things going on in the background, or there are things going on that I'm not completely aware of
Mm-hmm.
or understand. But and yes, like, there's could be a lot going on because in your essay, which I'm going to ask you about, you talk about everyone has a spiritual court, and I was like, maybe that's your spiritual court looking out for you, but
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
yes, your spiritual court looking out for you, and then it's
Yeah.
like, and then
My
there's all this
grandma
other
cutting it
stuff.
up with a cutlass. Yes.
Oh, wait, say that again.
I said it was my grandma cutting it up with a cutlass. She's just up
Ooh.
there doing backflips. The fucking machete. She's no joke.
Oh my
Kingston Queen.
gosh.
Yes.
Ooh, see, yeah, you can't. I keep saying you can't play with certain folks. You don't you can't play. What's so funny is that we have already talked about so many just like juicy topics, and I haven't even asked you um some of my questions yet. You know, I'm like, this is amazing.
I'm sorry for
Um,
diving all into my
oh,
my theories.
no, don't be sorry at all, cause I think so. I also, just to sort of return to what you were saying, I think you were saying that, like, you've been trying to understand yourself, but there's all these labels, and
Hmm.
so it's like trying to discern, not understanding yourself through labels, especially when they're,
I don't disregard them completely. Like, I think they can be useful in some respects. I'm not gonna lie. Like, of course. Um if I if I just want to make a joke, a little excuse for something, but also understand myself in a way where, like, I'm different in these aspects and it's been documented like this, and so what I'm experiencing is what they would call this. It's useful in that way, but in other ways it can definitely cause a lot of self-imposed internalized limitations that just don't suit my life's journey and me being emboldened with courage and, like, feeling like I can create the life that I choose and want, like, if I were to, and maybe that's an issue for me to work on, to feel like I can carefully balance the label and having the life that I want or whatever, but I don't feel the need necessarily to, like, fully embrace it all the time. Like, that's not my identity. No shade to the
Mhm.
people who you know, fully embrace the logic and the science and all of that, but that's clearly not where my brain is or has been or will ever be in this lifetime and hopefully the next. So, you know,
Mhm.
say la vie.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're saying, like, these labels can be helpful, but it's not like you don't want to just, like, completely identify, like, it becomes permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
want to
that
wear
does.
I don't want to wait
Appreciate
on the next copy for the DSM-6 or whatever to be like, "Oh, 56 new ways to understand myself." Like, I really don't I don't give a fuck, I'm
it.
sorry. And that's
That's
something
so
that,
interesting.
it's just been, something I used to feel bad for, but I'm just like, I can't talk about how no neurotypical Caribbean exists and understand life as I do, and then fully embrace, like, they do conflicts, you know. Words are kind of failing me, but hopefully you know what I'm saying.
No, 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 no. I think it's really interesting how you're connecting that to the Caribbean also, that not only personal, it it's cultural also, you know.
Mhm. But
Um
also,
when
like, you know, Caribbeans are weird. If I meet a Caribbean, I know you're not neurotypical. I know that you are different in a lot of ways that I am different. And so already there's that understanding, and people may use, certain diagnostic tools to put ourselves in ways. And it's very interesting seeing the world that we are in now, that they're the white man's daydream that they're trying to impose on us. Cause I'm like, being neurotypical is honestly, I don't want to say it's a curse, but
Mhm.
given how lush and romantic and spiritual my daily lived experiences, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Um, and so, like, seeing how they want to ship people off and all of that, it's actually like, that's the crazy thing. It's not um it's not the way that they want to prove and have it, you know? And so, like, the way that things are sterile and devoid of feeling and devoid of life, whereas if you go to New Orleans or you go to Jamaica, it very much is like the tone, the harmonics are set to a different way of
Mhm.
being. And like, that's not something that I can shed because I can't shed the blood that's in my body, you
Mhm.
know. And yes, that definitely impacts the brain, but also the brain is impacted by the land and the history of the people and all of the stuff. And like, that's nothing that's new per se, but I feel like in relation to the historical trauma and all of that, like, yeah, thinking about labels in that way is definitely a conversation that needs to be had in tandem, um, with the Caribbean conflicts that I was speaking on earlier. So, yeah.
Mhm. Wow, thank you. I know so many people are listening to this and appreciating what you're saying.
Thank you.
Yes, and I really hope that you please continue writing, continue sharing.
Yeah,
I'm so serious.
I was gonna write a version of this and then try to just talk about things in a way that makes sense to me. Um, and yeah, in the act of currently shedding the fear, currently shedding um, the little voice that says a bunch of nonsense. So yeah, it's just good to hear that. So thank you.
Yes, I am utterly, completely serious. There's too many people in my life where I'm like, you need to write a book. This needs to happen. I'm gonna be waiting. Um, and it's so interesting how you keep saying shedding, because I actually have some questions about snakes.
Oh
Um,
yeah, let's get into it.
yes. Now see, my notes have. Let me come to my notes because my battery went out on my phone. But so before I ask these questions about the snakes, I wanted to touch on a few things. First of all, what what inspired you to write Mirrors, Snakes, Sirens plus Tsunamis, a Mami Wata scholarly personal narrative?
What inspired me was um I don't even well, let me
That's
not
okay.
say I don't even know. I know exactly what inspired me. It's the same thing that has inspired me my whole life. Like I've literally been drawing mermaids my whole life. I've had um these stories in my brain. And so in thinking about a way to tie it together in a memoir type and then have that be the basis for eventually expanding it into like different artistic forms. I was having that or hoping it to be the blueprint and the basis, like an outline um for that, and just having it be like a brain dump of you know, past lived experiences. How do I tie this together? How do I explain what I am for people in a way and lay out the history? Um, yeah, and it was just an excuse to dive into that for a silly little class, for a silly little grade. Um, but yeah, seeing the work that came out of me, I know that it is definitely important to share. So thanks for the space to do so.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal essay. I definitely recommend y'all check it out. It's going to be in the show notes. And my next two questions focus on your childhood and the strong presence of the ocean. So there's a little bit of a lead up to the first one. Early on in your essay, you talk about the tsunami dreams you had as a child for nearly a decade and how your
Mm-hmm.
mom was having tsunami dreams at the same time. So first, I always think it's interesting the dreams of children, and these dreams sound so memorable and impactful. And you write, unbeknownst to me, at the same time of my life, my mother also is having tsunami dreams, nowhere near as frequently as mine, but still just as potent. In hers, as opposed to the water claiming us all, she was able to save me and my older sister. The youngest, however, went missing, taken by the waves. I then went down to the water's edge, telling her that I was talking to it in order to locate my little sister's spirit in order to find her body. That line that I was treading to speak to my little sister through the spiritual realm was that of the Kalunga line. Underneath that watery barrier of the Kalunga line that I was accessing was the realm of Mami Wata. So essentially, in the dream, you were connecting to the spirit world through water.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, for listeners who don't know what the Kulunga line is, can you explain what that is in whatever way feels best?
Yeah. Um, well, there's a book. I highly recommend you read it. Or even, you know, disregard the book maybe. And you could just look it up. But I believe the book is called Bantu Congo Cosmology or Cosmology. Yeah, it's been a long time. Um, but really famous, kind of old book. It lays everything out in the first few chapters. However, just to explain it in a way that's straightforward, easy to understand, and concise, I will say that basically the land of the ancestors is underwater, and we living humans live on land and breathe air. They are water spirits. And the barrier, the horizon line where the sun sets and rises every day, um, rests on the Kalunga line. And so whenever you are engaging in, like, why do I want to say watery acts? But like when you're in the water, you're swimming in the spirits, and it's like easy to be taken in. And that's actually a thing that happens quite often, but I don't want to speak on that too much right now. But hopefully that makes sense and is simple. I hope. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's sometimes it can be like hard to answer, questions that um, you were really researching like years ago, so no pressure
Hmm.
there. I just thought
Yeah.
like, oh, what if people don't know what the Kalunga line is? And
No, I mean, there's so many different ways that it can apply, but it's basically a conveyor belt for spirits. And the conveyor belt of reincarnation always goes through water first and last. And so like it's the beginning and the end. Um and yeah, um like an American example of a watery barrier where a lot of spirits are would be Lake Lanier.
Mhm.
A Jamaican version would be Flatbridge. Yeah. So a lot of places where like spirits rest. Well, they're not resting; they're restless, um, and they're very much so active. And there's a lot of movement in those areas. Um, yeah. And tell me why my mother recently she told me I have no idea what you're talking about. I never told you that. I didn't have any tsunami dreams. And I
Uh,
was like, what? What are you talking about? I have held on to that memory for years. You told me to write that book. I was going to write it. I was going to clickety clack write it all out because you told me that you had a message from the water. And I wonder if that was a dream too. Honestly, part of me wonders that. I wonder if it was some version of Mommy Wata speaking through my mother about the water, which would make sense. It makes sense to me. Um, or maybe she was just possessed by that spirit and has no memory of it. Either or,
wow.
I think it's so funny that she had no memory of that because that was one of the things that I have kept in my head my entire life ever since it happened. Like you cannot gaslight me out of that happening. I know that that happened. That was real and that happened. So, yeah, thinking about um spirits that relate to water and mothers and mothering is just funny that she would come through out of all people, my mother, and then say she doesn't remember. Like who was I talking to then? The
That's
fuck?
so interesting.
Yeah, the plot thickens, don't it?
It sure does because I was reading the essay and then you were like, and my mom was having, the same dreams, not as frequently. And I was like, wow, that's amazing because I'm like, in this moment, now that years have passed, I'm just curious what you think of the dreams, the tsunamis, your mom,
Mm, I
the
was told um that when I was younger I should have done an offering to the ocean. I was like, that's a useless piece of information to me now. Like I don't I don't know what you want me to do with that. Nobody was gonna do that around me. Definitely not. They would have, obia, all of those things. But um yeah, looking back on it, I think that it was just definitely like laying claim to my energy, not in a um and I hate that I have to say this. Not in any demonic way, not in any way where it was um like led with bad intent. Um but I think that it definitely was laying the foundation for me to know early on um who I was and in some small way what I was here for. Um yeah, and it's funny because I'll see Africans. I remember I was like on this TikTok live of this Christian African woman and she was like drawing all these different kingdoms, you know, and so like within the Christian, I don't know, sect or whatever, it's a term that I just noticed recently came to my attention because when I was writing that essay, I just so happened to be paired with one of the few other Black women in my class, and she was also Christian. Um, and she was like, "Oh, the Marine Kingdom," and I was like, "What is that? What do you?
The
Why does that
Marine
sound?"
Kingdom?
Yeah, and in that TikTok live, that African woman called it the Marine Kingdom, and she drew a mermaid, but she was like, "Oh, she's ugly." And then all these girls, and I could tell they were water spirits too, based off of just their profile pictures, you know. I could just feel it, and the woman who was on this live too could feel it as well, and it made me wonder about her. Like in what ways has your womanhood and your spiritual watery energy been twisted? Because it really seemed to be a lot of um, undue jealousy and anger and like very hostile, vile ways that she was speaking to these women. And they were going on being like, "Oh, Auntie, I'm so sorry. I'm so scared. Everyone keeps saying I'm a water spirit. Can you help me? I'm so scared. People are saying that I'm a daughter of the water. What do I do? I'm so scared." And
Oh
immediately
my
she would look
gosh.
look at them and be like, "Oh, no one's ever told you that you're selfish and like shitty." And she would just barrage of rude comments and would dig into them and kill their spirits on live when they would go to her for spiritual guidance. And all of this fear built off of a very, very, very powerful energy that is like literally native to damn near all of us, you know? And so
Native to
like
who? Oh,
um
all of us, you say, yeah.
yeah. But specifically like black folks and African folks particularly, like it lays very strongly its hand and its head on you. And so like why I could ask why, but I know why. But like the source of fear is just it's funny to me. It's not haha funny to me. But I don't know. Being on that live made me upset, and I wanted to be like, "Mermaids, follow me. We're out. We don't need this shit." But you know, it's just like that's you got to read the room. That's not. They would not see that as a source of empowerment, and they would call me a witch and all these other things. Um, because she was already doing that. But yeah, it's just in ways that there's power, especially with young girls and women, and that very potent energy. Like, I don't know, man. It's very um sacred and delicate, and if somebody sees that you are going to them for guidance on it, that can be a point of manipulation in your own spirit in relation to your own praise and prayers and power. And like, yeah, it just really, really rubbed me the wrong way. And I was like, ugh,
Oh my gosh. That sounds
ugh.
horrible actually. If
Yeah,
you're
it
kind of
was.
clueless and looking for
Mhm.
guidance
Yeah.
and what were you gonna say?
Um, I wasn't gonna say anything, but
Oh,
honestly, it reminded me of when I was in New Orleans. There was a day where I was wandering around all the markets, and I was just wandering, looking for a Mami Wata statue, like a sculpture. Um, and it felt like a fruitless journey. But the whole time I was there, I was kind of looking for one to see if one would, you know, make its way to me. And so I was also, you know, not doing my due diligence by just waiting on it. I was actively searching it out and expending a lot of energy on that day to try to find one when I should have just sat my ass home, to be honest. But I went to four different places, and all the Africans were immediately like, "Mommy, what? No, no, ooh,
oh,
no."
oh my gosh.
And
Tell
then
me why. You know what? Because I have a question just about what
Uh-huh.
you're saying. Keep going. Keep going.
But then the last one was this man, and his name was Moses, I believe. And he lit up. He was Senegalese, and he was immediately like, "Mommy Wata, oh my God. Oh my God. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. What do you want? What do you want that for?"
Mhm.
And I
Mm.
was like, "Oh, you know." And then something switched in him. Something took over him, but it wasn't a bad thing, you know? Like I felt that he was about to give me guidance. So I ended up like literally kneeling at his feet, and he was telling me all this stuff about Mami Wata. He was like, "What do you know?" And it was so funny. I know what I know, but then he asked me that, and I became a like blubbering fool. I didn't know anything. I was like, I don't know, I don't know. And yeah, I was like at his feet, and he was just telling me all of this stuff, and so it felt like divine guidance in that way. And I was very like proud and happy to have found him. And he was like, "Come back." I didn't ever find him again. um and that's how it goes, you know, especially how it happens in New Orleans. But yeah, it's just a little funny journey.
I'm so glad that you found that guidance because while you were sharing, thank you for sharing that because I think it speaks to how how the energy of water can and is manipulated because it is so malleable if I use that word that
Mm-hmm.
and you know some people might say the word program that might sound too new age for people but it's water can be manipulated
I
so
think programmed is a good
program
word for
yeah
it, or like downloading the essence of whatever is nearby. And also, like, I will say I'm biased, obviously, but when the water spirits are mad, usually it's for a good reason. Like, I'm
mm,
sorry.
mm,
It's usually for a good reason. And as with humans, they have their own motivations. Yes, some of them are violent or whatever, but that's totally disregarding all of the violence that humanity inflicts on everything else.
hmm
What do you think they say of us? Please.
yeah yeah um oh my god I'm just processing and you know it's so kind of freaky it's like the responses people had to you. It was that,
Mm.
oh my God, go away. And that mommy water, like that sense of awe. And that kind of freaks me out that
Mm.
for some people which is comes to my question. I wanted to ask you, and I know we're at time. Maybe we could do
That's okay. I don't mind.
okay.
I don't mind stretching it out more.
Okay. All right. Cause I was gonna ask you how you feel about I just feel like okay, let me just go to my question because I want to make sure I say it um so I wanted to touch on the impact of colonization, indoctrination, and
Mm-hmm.
demonization on African Afro-diasporic spiritual beliefs and practices because I feel like in my own life when people if when people hear Mami Wata or voodoo or they see imagery of snakes, it immediately goes
Mm-hmm.
into negative reactions and
It's so
every
sad.
yeah, and everything I just said is, connected to the devil or not being it's not of God. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was, and you say in your essay you are a direct descendant of Mami Wata. So
I know that's a bold claim, huh?
I love it. We got to be bold out here because just like how water is programmable, somebody going to come out here and be like tell you, just program something.
No,
Um
it's true.
Yeah, and I'm like, how have you gotten clear on who you are and who you're becoming and your lineage when there is so much demonization to this day? Like literally you could be the most powerful water spirit, mermaid, goddess, whatever, and someone goes boop, and now you're just, you know, you forgot who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely been a whole journey for sure, but I feel like I'm nearing the tail end of it, thank God. Like I really, really and that's the thing too, if you don't have a strong foundation within yourself, period, um it'll make it so much easier for like energetic and spiritual static to come in, for people to see and sense, even just like the way that you walk, the way that you carry yourself, that you have doubts about yourself and your identity. Let me just go in there and just like prick you with some poison and get it under your skin. And stuff like that, attacks in those ways, definitely dealt with, definitely dealt specifically through a mermaid scape of trying to find my own um in like a spiritual house, and consistently for years searching for a mermaid spiritual house, feeling like I don't have a right to lay claim to my spiritual identity because I'm not initiated and blah blah blah. Oh my God, but being initiated doesn't automatically give you power. It doesn't automatically give you that clarity. It doesn't automatically give you the spiritual strength and fortitude that I've built up on my own, and also literally runs through me. Like, I come from some warriors and some fucking killers. You know what I'm saying? I come from some Jamaican hot headed, amazing, beautiful, strong people who have a lot of energetic weight and space. And it scares people when I just walk in the room, like they're loud, like I am loud. I am loud because they are loud. And so, like, I can't disregard certain things about myself. And settling into that truth is just one of many that I have been finally, thankfully, given the space. Well, it's like space that I've given myself, but I've also been given this space and time and place to um fully know myself. And again, with like pruning my thoughts, it's like, if I have a little thought that's going to say something rude and kind of annoying and also like not rooted in truth, it's like, hey, shut up.
Mm-hmm.
And I try not to be rude to them, but also sometimes I know that like that's not from me. Who is
Mm-hmm.
whispering in my ear?
Mm-hmm.
Who the fuck is saying that shit to me right now, trying to poison my brain when I just had an amazing day? I, was able to dance and feel great, and I was able to feel really good. What is going to try to come up in my space and try to derail me, and take me out of that inner knowing and place? And so, like, it's a daily work manifesting that new frame of mind. And like, I feel like it's starting to show, and so I'm glad for that. But yeah, it's definitely not been without its pitfalls. I will say that I'm very, very blessed to be protected. And every time I wanted to join a house to like prove something more to myself than anyone else, like, it just wouldn't work. Certain divination just wouldn't work. They'd be like, oh, it just doesn't work. And I'd be like, what do you mean? What?
Yeah.
I don't understand. What do you mean? Oh, we need to reschedule. Oh, I can't read you. Oh, there's something around you that's so odd. Some people just aren't supposed to know you in that way. You're not supposed to get answers from everybody all the time, because when you are searching for answers outside of yourself in that way, you're always going to um not have the discernment to know that you're looking through the lens of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
They
Right.
can definitely lay prey to people and lay prey to people's gifts. And if you actually have the spirit and have the journey, like, yeah, they'll suck that out of you. They'll suck you dry down to the bone and then chew that up and eat the marrow in that. Like,
Oh my
it's
God. Who's
not.
doing that? Because you went out a little bit. Who's doing that?
I mean, people,
Mm.
people,
Oh my God.
yes.
That's a, I'm not about that life. Oh.
It's not all people, and there are things that I heard of people in places I wanted to join, and then finding out later, like, damn, I just dodged not just a bullet, but like a whole, I don't even know, like a whole hurricane, a flurry of bullets. I don't even know what the fuck you would call that, but um yeah, and it's just knowing that I am who I am. I know who I say I am. I would not have the experiences that I have if I am not who I know myself to be. So everything will get more straight and in line the more that I settle into the truth. And every doubt is not from my mind. Every doubt is not from me. It's trying to keep me safe, and I get it, like that fear and anxiety, but that's not rooted in my own self respect and my own self knowing and my highest self, like the root.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, just swat them away like flies, you know?
Yes, because it while you were talking, I was thinking about like thought forms, like
Mm,
I've been tracking. I say in the episode that's going to be published next Friday, I talk with one guest about like tracking my thoughts, because I think talking about thought forms maybe can be a slippery slope if, if people are having mental health challenges, especially during this time.
mm-hmm,
But for me, I'm like, the way that I track thought forms is like just noticing my thoughts. Like, wow, I noticed that this has come into my mind 10 times. Or I notice I don't usually speak to myself this way. Why am
mm,
I speaking to myself this way? I've never said this to myself.
mm-hmm.
And I love how you say prune, because in my mind I was like, oh, that's right. I can just like cut. No, I can cut this off. And
Yeah, you are the curator, you know, it's literally your brain. And, you know, given that we're having a spiritual experience, it's like your thoughts, they're not important, but you can use them as fuel for importance, and they can also fuel other agendas. And so it's like, who do you want to give power to with your thoughts? Do you want to empower yourself, or do you want to empower those who want to disempower you? Do you want to empower like something that doesn't feed your self clarity and self respect and um integration? What's the word I'm looking for? Like um I don't know. But yeah, that's been something that's actively been a journey for me recently.
Mhm. I'm so glad we're talking about this, because I'm sure other people are having lots of experiences. There could be a lot of interference out here, a lot of things going on. And so, just trying to understand, just trying to, yeah, get a sense of our own experience. And So I just, you know what? I tell early guests that, feel free to come on another time, because I don't think we're gonna get to all the questions that I wanted to, but like I really want to ask the snake questions, and then we could just
Yeah.
wrap up.
Okay.
Um and you could come on another time if you want.
Absolutely. I'd be down.
Yes, because this is I'm like I'm really on the edge of my seat here. I really am, because I appreciate this. And so you say in part two of your essay, you talk about how snakes are connected to Mami Wata and viewed as ancestors throughout Africa. And you write, the process of shedding, of peeling oneself in order to begin anew, is abundance at its finest, showing the endless potential of adapting, growth, change, and a clean slate. So I love how you equate
Damn, I
shedding.
forgot that I wrote that.
That was like kapow. I was like, what? A form of abundance, shedding as a form of abundance. I've never heard that before. You're equating shedding and beginning anew as a form of abundance and connection to potential.
That was a word that I didn't know that I needed right now, because we're in a 9 year. You know, I'm sure you've heard everyone talking about how that's an Oya year. Um, and yeah, lots of endings and beginnings, and also like I was watching a video of a snake shedding. Um, and sometimes they need help with their eyes, you know, and help with certain parts. And I've just been thinking about um, I don't know, just like vision and getting a clearer vision, having a clearer head, and having um like the blessing of truth, because I used to, not that I would confuse myself outright, but I would know something and then through my Caribbean intuition, and then I would just ignore it,
Yes.
given the circumstances. I taught myself to ignore a lot of things, and then hence chaos and confusion would ensue. I'd be sobbing on my knees, like, why? Why would this happen? How could they do this? Oh my God. When I saw it and I knew, and so it feels like not necessarily the wool being pulled back, but like the skin being popped off from my eyes. Um, and I feel abundant in that, right? Because I finally see my power in things where I didn't see it before. Um, at my grown age, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't see it before, and it's a new way of being that I'm learning to walk in, and it's a little bit scary, but I wouldn't have it any other way, because living with like resigned autonomy completely to everybody else except for myself is just not, it's just not it, you know? It's just not the business.
What What do you mean by resigned autonomy? You mean like you?
I mean, sacrificing my autonomy, resigning it to other people, seeking it out from other people, when in that very cliche way, it was within me the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Resigning my
Yeah.
autonomy, signing it over, you know, and that's literally like a spiritual contract within itself. Whenever I seek answers from other people instead of myself first, when um it's rooted in a lack of understanding my own um power. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yes. And I'm doing multiple listening right now. I'm listening to you. I'm listening, and then I'm hearing all these background noises.
uh,
I told my family, I'm like, y'all gotta be quiet. I'm doing anyway. I'm hearing life in
you're
the other
doing great.
room. I'm just like, and yeah, I well, it just reminds me that I know in my own life gone down, and I'm sure you've had some cases where people done some kind of fucked up. I've had my own experience, but at the end of the day, I'm always like, I know that it all back to me. Like I know this happened to me and this happened, this, and I could just go on and on. But when you talk about, but I know about I'm a common denominator. So somehow it's like you really have to connect with yourself and connect to that power. Um,
And it's not even in a way of like falling into that sort of trap of like blaming yourself for certain things happening, but it's just like one of my previous pitfalls was like, okay, the horror has happened. Let me I don't know, just let me be and let me breathe, and like not really being able to fully bridge the gap of like transmuting the thing. And so just like sitting and stewing it and wallowing and feeling very upset, but never being able to fully shed it, you know? And so just carrying that weight of like half shedded skin was just sort of like my existence up until recently. And yeah, that can create a lot of shit to be there when it doesn't need to be, and it can create more chaos. Um but yeah, that's just like um where I've been at currently.
Hmm. Yeah. There's like shedding and then, doing that complete shedding. And like I still can't get over you talking about this shedding as a form of abundance. Because I'm always trying to I recognize my potential. I feel like so many of us recognize our potential, and so thinking of shedding as like this way to access our potential. Um, okay, so I have two more questions and then we'll
Okay.
wrap this up. um, I'm so grateful and like this whole conversation has felt so like luscious and green and
Thank you. I agree.
yeah, I'm just so grateful and so many things that I need to hear. And I'm sure it's helpful for a lot of people to, we're all going through things and trying to process and live. Um, just to hear your experience. So, in this same section of you talking about snakes and the role of snakes or the relationship of snakes with Mami Wata um, and ancestors, you then write snakes are often tied to rainbows as well, with the full expression of light being tied to all creation. Before there was water, there was light. And then you go on to give some specific examples. So I'm curious from your personal, spiritual, cultural perspective. This is like I'm very wordy. What do you think the role of snakes, light, and rainbows are during this time of great change?
Mm, oh my gosh. Yeah, I think um what a question. Let me sit with that for a second.
I know. I realize I'm asking some wordy ass questions. Be like
No,
half
that's
of
a
a
good
question
one. It makes me think. Um and what do I
because
think?
you
I
make great point that it's a 9 year, and look at all the stuff happening this year.
Mhm. Well, I will say it sounds cliche, but there is energetic and an environmental truth in it that like after the rain comes the rainbow. And also thinking about rain as a form of abundance too. um I think in relation to a spirit like Dambala, something so ancient that it predates words and it's just like primordial hisses. But as the original source of creation and tied to water and the cosmos and like the Big Bang and great amazing things, I think that like just remembering again like that source of power and not disregarding it, and also thinking about like mm, I don't know. I want to say like how you can sort of restart yourself in every moment, and also knowing that like and thinking about the past and like the ways that I have clung to certain stories and things. Like there are ways that like stories are done and like let them die, and that's fine. But also there are ways for hope in which like that story isn't dead, it's been revived and it never actually died. It was just laying dormant. And like thinking about the cyclical nature of spirals and like serpents and creation in that way, but also like the shedding and the ending of things. and how shedding is like a process. And I'm sure that um, for a snake, it's probably exhausting and cathartic, like all at once. Um, yeah, it just feels like in this moment, I can't speak for like what the world needs, but I can speak for what has been helping me. And what has been helping me has been, especially in relation to my thoughts. If, and this is coming from somebody with a previous pattern of my brain just consistently bringing up shit that I don't want to think about. And not in an avoidant way, but in a way where just daily constantly keeping me stagnant and keeping me afraid, keeping me stuck in loops of things that other people probably don't think about that often, stuff like that, you know. And it's just been a way, a wave to ride of sharpening my sight, and also sharpening my tongue in relation to um, shit that doesn't help me and actively harms me. Things that actively keep me disempowered, just like dead it, dead it. It's dead. It's
Mm.
dust, you know? Um, and it is embracing a new frame of mind that feels unfamiliar and kind of selfish, to be honest. And that's a thing for me to work through, of feeling like it's okay to live my life for myself. Um, but yeah, as things are shifting, I really think that my own empowerment and seeing other people feel empowered in a similar way is honestly like literally a weapon of its own to the machine of mass destruction. You know, like when people feel fully in their own power, when they aren't questioning themselves and looking to fill consistent voids, which is, you know, obviously hard. Living here is hard. Yes, we're in the heart of empire, and it fucking sucks. Like
It
it really,
does.
it
Yeah.
blows. I wonder, I used to be upset, you know, and be like, why did you come here? Jamaicans, why did you come here? The fuck? This was your land of opportunity. I mean, it's not that many generations to ask back, but like, you
Mhm.
know, just the one. Like, God. But still, given the stuff that they try to throw on us daily, shoving a bunch of shit on you that don't, it doesn't feed you in any way that's helpful. It's like a reclamation of um what's actually yours, and like leaving them to keep the rest.
Mhm.
And it may outwardly appear selfish, but that thought is its own frame of mind state that's rooted in a lot of um, lack and fear, anyways. So, yeah, I don't really know if that's helpful as an answer. Maybe if I listen to this back, it'll make more sense. But yeah.
No, that was super helpful. My question might have been too wordy, and maybe it's a question like a good question to stew on, but I think you said something that I think is so important. First, that like I do think sometimes, oftentimes, even at a young age, we're told to like constantly respond to the world. Um, and that's such a big feat to do. So I'm not, I forgot if I phrased my question in that way, but you said like, you said something about like, I, because I was asking you the roles of like rainbows and snakes and light in the role of what's going, all the changes that are going on. And I love how you responded with like your personal experience, because I think sometimes it can be so overwhelming to figure out how do we respond to the world when,
Mm.
there's our immediate life and our immediate community. And
Especially, like, I'm sorry to interrupt,
oh
but
no, go
like
ahead.
thinking about people who've like issued warnings from the water and worldwide water warnings in that way. Um, I don't know if you saw, but that's something that I think about kind of often, honestly. But like I I don't know. There's ways to help, um but I do think also, like we were speaking on learned helplessness earlier. I do think that like the West and the people in it have been placated into stagnancy through learned helplessness and like a sort of Stockholm syndrome. And so like um what does it mean and what does it look like to be in the fullness of your power and like not afraid of it? Because people are afraid of snakes. The ones I
Mm-hmm.
saw in New Orleans in the French Quarter, I loved them. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, and that's I thought your answer is amazing and personally what I needed to hear, because I'm like, you know what? I think sometimes I'm like, I know that I like being empowered. I know that it's important to stay empowered. Like I'm thinking about power, but when you're talking, I'm like, I think now I really have to like really sit with how I am empowering myself, how I am empowered,
Mm.
that like, and you've said root so many times. It's like I think now I really have to sit and root in what actually makes me feel empowered. Because I do, yeah, this is a time where it's so easy to feel helpless and powerless. Um, um, and so maybe it has like, if if I'm not personally, if I'm not already kind of grounded in my power, I really need to do that now. Or
Because it
I
can be shook loose like so easily, and you're an easy target for giving away your power. And if we're thinking about like these systems as having spiritual roots, which they all definitely do, they do their weird little cult shit in the mountains here in NorCal, at their fucking country clubs and shit. It's weird. They have their own version of magic and they wield it often, you know. Like my mind is going towards, um I think it was some kind of sport event that was distracting people from huge intense horrific bombing in Palestine, and Joe Biden's fucking like POTUS tweet. Do you remember where he had the like red eyes and it was like
oh yeah, I've
just
seen
like we
that.
imagined? Like why
Oh,
you can't ask yourself why they would post that. You already know. Like we're living in multiple layers of a game. And so like in order to have be fully connected to the golden thread that's on your head, like you need to see clear, and you also need to think clear, and you can't do that if you see your power as being outside of yourself. And that's something that I've been really, yeah, like I said, it's been a journey. I've learned the hard way My hard headed ass. Yes. I've learned the
Hmm.
hard way. And I'm
But
still learning. It's daily.
and I think people are going to appreciate that. Like I do think there's something to saying that if we could all just like just boom, be these super powerful beings and we're just badass, just then we'd
Mm-hmm.
all be that.
Yes, and then there would be actual people who would be emboldened enough to take action, but people in other countries will storm and do all that shit. Here it's a different story, and that's not for no reason. And so, like, I don't know, it's just been a lot of shedding of shame and guilt is what's needed for me personally, and I think for others as well. Um and yeah, things may be marked as selfish, but the self-care that's necessary in order for us to have the energy that's required for bearing the true weight of this is like genuinely, not that it's just beginning, but it will be a new era for each of us as and if we fully step into the roles that like we are called here to do, you know um and so I like to think that I know what that looks like, but I really don't, and nobody else does either, and like that's scary, but it's okay. um I just hope that I can like witness it actually happening for real. And if that means and hinges on the impact that I have being a part of that, then like, okay, I'll try to quiet my brain and step into the fullness of my being to the best of my ability, you know, um, and not be so afraid. Or at least that's what I tell myself.
I love that. I love that so much. I'm going to tell myself that. I really am because that's all that I can do. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional. It's okay to cry.
It's always
Oh,
okay to cry. Venus in
oh,
Cancer. Oh, wait, it's Cancer season.
it is. Wait, you
Wow.
have Venus in Cancer?
Yeah, my Venus and
Oh,
Mars are in
oh, that's
Cancer
beautiful.
in the 12th house.
Ooh, hey, see, we getting
Yeah.
all the 12th house people on this podcast. You know what? Yeah, shout out to the 12th house
Yeah.
because what a whirlwind the 12th house is.
Oh my
And
God, yeah.
I don't think I've ever met a Cancer in a 12th house person.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah. Venus and Mars conjunct by 1 degree.
Ooh,
Yeah.
wow. That's so interesting. See, the next time you come on here, we could talk about that. We could,
Hell yes.
yeah, because I'm an astro nerd. So finally, your essay is just this amazing, amazing deep dive into what you call your spiritual legacy. And I love how you use that phrase, spiritual legacy. Um, can you share what that means to you? And
Mm. Damn, I wish I not let me not say that. I was gonna say I wish I remember what I wrote or what I was thinking of when I wrote it. But with my renewed understanding, it doesn't really matter. Was there another part of your question? Was I interrupting you?
no, I was thinking this essay is like you're talking about your spiritual legacy, and so it's like you're in the now moment right now. And I just wonder, when we think of legacy, sometimes it's like, this family that's been building their family business, or like, you know, there's Coach Prime with his sons and they got this football legacy going on.
Mhm.
M- so I tend to think of legacy in like different ways, and I actually never heard of spiritual legacy before. So I just wonder, like, maybe my question is like, maybe how does it feel to have the spiritual legacy that you have?
It feels great. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love being Jamaican. I love all of my African roots. I love them. It's really where the power lies for sure. Um, because Lord knows the levels of like powerlessness that I would be if I didn't fully begin the journey to find myself in that way and have them genuinely start to talk to me. Not that they ignore me. I was definitely on their mind throughout the earlier parts of my life for sure, obviously, but like um in order to fully immerse myself and seek out the knowledge and then have certain dreams, you know, be told certain things, learn certain things through my intuition and like um trances and dances and things of that nature, like yeah, it's potent and it's powerful, and I see why my energy freaks people out, um because it's very much. There's a weight to it, um that I even used to walk with that I sort of lost in the ghost of like my timidity. Is that even a word? Whatever, you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gaining things back in a way that I have a renewed form and vision for myself, and I also have um spiritual access to things that other people do not. And like that feels amazing. I'm not gonna lie, it feels great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't question a lot of things that come very easily to me, um, that I would struggle with or just not be blessed with would I not have the spiritual legacy that I have. Um, yeah.
I love that. Yes, giving love to your spiritual legacy. Ah, so good.
Jamaica, 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 the root for sure. For me. And you know,
Yes.
obviously, um, it goes back to Africa, but really the island for sure. I can't disregard that.
Wow. Maybe one day I'll get to visit Jamaica. You know, I went to all Caribbean high school.
Oh
When I
my
went
god.
when I went to high school in Brooklyn, I so
Hey.
it's it's a long story, but that's where I learned that like blackness is not a monolith, you know? I learned
Mm,
that in high school. My best friends were Puerto Rican and Black American,
oh my
Jasmine,
gosh.
and then my other best friend Simone, Guyanese, and like
Oh, another
everybody was from
Simone.
everywhere in the Caribbean. Yeah. And
Guyanese are cool. They're cool as fuck. They're on the CIA's list of like I don't know if it's like forbidden ethnicities or whatever, but they have a list of like countries where the people automatically they're threats because they're just so fucking cool because they naturally have a potency and a history of not fucking with the US in a very loud way, and Guyana is on there.
uh you know,
Respect.
that's right, respect. And you know what? That reminds me of Simone and her sister wanted to be models and were models. I just remember
Oh, I love
Simone's sister.
them.
Yeah, she said if I ever came over, I gotta make sure that I look nice. Like they're really big
Yes.
into like you need to look nice, your hair needs to be done. If I ever showed up there looking, kind of messed up, they'd be
Real
like, well,
raga. Yeah.
they would put me in a whole new outfit. I would be looking just just on point after
Aw.
they were through with me. Um, but yeah, anyway, I just say that because I don't know, I feel like that experience really helped my understanding in kind of going back to the labels that um we're black people or we're what's the word I'm looking for? uh I want to say not a monolith, but I'm looking for another word. Um,
Diverse?
diverse. Yeah, diverse. That's a great word. Um, and I know there were a lot of Jamaicans at my high school. Also, people
God
people
bless
from
them all.
Haiti, everywhere. So anyway,
That's
shout
like
out to Jamaica.
shout out to Jamaica. That's like a new power that I have unlocked, honestly. I don't want to say it's like the most useless superpower, because I think given everything that I've told you, it absolutely has its uses for me. However, there are times when I see people and I can just tell by their aura that they're Caribbean, and my Jamaican radar goes off, my little sense, and I'll be like, "Are you Boricua?" And they'll be like, "How did you know?" Down to the island.
Yes. Yes. See, look. Oh, okay, that's right. Because you're in San Francisco. I was like, yo,
Hmm.
they're the Caribbean neighborhoods in the city in New York City. I
Oh
feel
my
like
god! When I
when
went
you,
to visit, I was so
Mhm.
amazed. There were patties everywhere. Patties are
Yes,
hard to come by out here. Good patties.
when look, when I left New York City, I was just like, I'm not like, there's no food because you can't just like order Jamaican food, or you can't just order whatever food where I'm at right now. But
Mm,
anyway, I
oh
I
my
love.
god! I have some curry chicken that I got
Mm,
marinating right now.
that
Gonna
sounds
cook it
so
after this.
good. There is something to what you're saying.
Yeah.
The vibe, the harmonics, the energy, like period, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
It wouldn't be co-signed by the Orisha if it was just in my brain.
Mhm.
Because that was something that I have not really told people. It was just a thought that I've been crafting for years and years, meticulously, quietly, just not telling anybody anything, just being like, you're Caribbean. Interesting.
Well, we're waiting. Whenever you're ready to share, we are
I'll
waiting.
drop it soon.
Yes. So, Amanda, thank you so much for meeting me at the through line.
Thank you for
Um,
having me.
yes, do you have any last thoughts on your heart?
Um, no.
That is
or
totally fine.
maybe I do. I don't know. Um, just kidding. No, I don't. I don't.
That is totally fine because we just had, whew, it was just, that's all I got to say. And I hope all you out there listening to this, I hope you enjoy this episode. Please let us know in the comments. Please share with your friends. Thank you again, Amanda.
Thank you, Simone. I'll talk to you later. And thank you for giving me the space and place to just like air out my thoughts. Thank you for wanting to hear from me.
Yeah.